Welcome, everyone, to episode 135 of Rangers Ed, presented by Lucarelli Law. If you're in Florida and need a lawyer, call Lucarelli Law and tell them the boys at Rangers Ed sent you. This is Cousin Ed. I'm here with Little Ed and Coach Ed, PJ behind the scenes. What's up, boys?
How we doing, fellas?
How's everyone doing? I was a little bit inspired last week by PJ calling me a slob for my office looking terrible. So I did clean it up a little bit. You can't really tell, but the boxes are gone. I've organized things a little bit. So I'm feeling good about that. Feeling a little more at peace in the Ranger room. I still got to decorate it, but I got to get Little Ed down in Florida to do that. So that's going to take a while.
You got to persuade Lindsay to get us down to Florida.
Yeah, it might take a little persuading. Coach, how you doing over there?
Doing good.
Where are you?
Good. Excited.
Where are you with that flag in the background? That's not the Ranger room, right?
I'm in my temporary Ranger room.
Temporary Ranger room. All right.
Yeah.
We all got the temporary Ranger room going.
My whole house is a Ranger room.
Did you see it? What was the one? I don't know if it was last year or this year. The guy in MSG that had like the goal lights when the team scored. They like play the lights in the room. How did he do that? Did somebody like press a button when they score or something? I mean,
I don't know.
It had to be
that,
right?
They do that at the bar in Chicago with the Stanley Cup lights up with the red lights. So I don't know. There must be like somebody that does it.
Our buddy Mark, the guy that sponsors the jersey profiles coming up in a few minutes, has one in his Ranger room. It's awesome. I gotta have him send me another video. Maybe I'll include that on the jersey profile somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that.
Like, I forget what he told me about it like a few weeks ago or a few months ago. I could probably look back in our text. But it's a company that does like the whole thing. You tell them like what team you have, and they send you like the red light. They send you the lights to put around the room behind the TV, and it's all synced to like the Ranger games.
Oh, wow.
So whenever the Rangers score, your lights automatically start going nuts.
That's wild.
Which is it's pretty cool, yeah. So maybe we'll have Mark on, or I'll have him send me videos and stuff, and we'll talk about it.
No, let's get him on. That's great, and he could do a tour in the episode. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an Inside the Ranger Room episode. We have to bring that back.
We still didn't do that. We never did even one of them. We teased
that
idea like a year.
We did the Henrik one. It was fun.
Did we?
Yeah, but we didn't show the whole room and.
No, we did like a one and done. It was a cool episode. We shared some of the memorabilia from our Hall of Fame trip. So fans, if you didn't check that out, it's definitely still on our YouTube if you want to check that one out. But yeah, we shared it was like a one and done, but we could definitely bring it back. Maybe that's a good reason to bring it back, and he'll sponsor that segment too.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it. All right, we got a lot to cover. So much going on in Ranger World. Let's jump right into it, guys. Jersey profiles, episode 135, number 35. Obviously, Mike Richter. Played 14 years with the Rangers, 301 wins, 258 losses, 73 ties, back when they were ties. He had a 289 GAA, 904 save percentage, 24 shutouts. He was a second-round pick in the 85 draft. Won a gold medal in the 96 World Cup of Hockey, silver medal at the 2002 Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. He had his number 35, retired at MSG February 4th, 2004, and was inducted into the United States Hockey Hall of Fame in 2008. He was also MVP in that 1996 World Cup of Hockey. So he had a couple of big years there. 94, he won the Cup, obviously, and then 96 MVP of the World Cup of Hockey, winning a gold medal. Speaking of World Cup of Hockey, while we're on the topic of Richter, we can kind of talk about this because the Four Nations is coming up. NHL players haven't been in the Olympics. World Cup of Hockey, I don't really remember. I was 10 when that happened. I don't really remember that, but that's a great idea because, I mean, you got the World Cup with soccer, right? And it's really popular. It's not really Olympics. I'm just curious the circumstances of that. I don't remember. Maybe PJ knows. He knows everything. So maybe he knows why there was a World Cup of Hockey and not an Olympics. But I heard on 32 Thoughts, guys, that in 2028 is when the next best on best hockey tournament is going to be. So I don't know. Is that the Olympics 2028?
I believe so, yeah.
I just quickly just to chime in there.
What's up, PJ?
How we doing, guys? How we doing, boys? So yeah, the World Cup, what they're going to change now, and I think that's because they haven't done the Winter Olympics in so much, is they kind of want to now do it almost every year. So next year will be the Winter Olympics actually in 2026
with
And then the
NHL
year
players.
And then that's what they're still working out. And ideally, what will happen then is it'll be Winter Olympics, then All-Star Game, then World Cup. So every couple years they'll have like almost a best on best again.
So
this
Winter
is kind of
Olympics,
like
All-Star Game, World Cup, All-Star Game, Winter Olympics, All-Star Game, World Cup, like that. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So this
Cool.
obviously with the four nations, not quite a World Cup because we're missing Czechia and obviously Russia for many reasons. But yes, I think
they did the World Cup.
They haven't done.
When did they do the World Cup last? Wasn't that in like 2018 maybe?
I think it was 20. Yeah, I think it was 2016 if I'm correct.
16?
That was. Remember when they had that 23 and under team, the North America, in addition to US.
JT Miller was on that.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, JT Miller, Trocheck was on that actually.
They almost won that.
Lundqvist was in.
They were a good team.
A lot of good players.
If you guys get to watch it, there's like a 30 for 30 on that World Cup game. It's on NHL Network a lot. And it was amazing because it was a big upset. Obviously, they beat the Canadians, but it's a crazy watch. I don't really remember the circumstances of it. When you watch the highlights, you're like, wow.
Well, Richter was a great international player. Obviously, he won the Stanley Cup in the NHL, and he was a good goalie, but he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which, is I think he's a borderline Hockey Hall of Famer. Like, he's on the cusp, right? Like a guy who maybe could be in it. But internationally, I mean, he's got a gold medal in the World Cup, a silver medal in the Olympic Games, a Stanley Cup. I think internationally, he's up there for sure, and obviously he's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. And his jersey's retired at MSG. I mean, Coach, it's one of those things where it's like when you win the Stanley Cup, you're going to end up with a lot of jerseys retired, right? I mean, you're going to have at least 3 or 4 guys with their numbers retired, right? So every team that wins, you just expect at least 3 to 4 or 5 guys going to have their numbers up in the rafters. And Richter was obviously a key component of that 94 Cup team.
That was a big year for him. We've talked about it before. He won the MVP at the All-Star Game. He stoned Broadway in the All-Star Game at least twice on breakaways.
And in the finals on a penalty shot.
Well, I didn't get to that. Then he got him in the playoffs in the finals, and it was a big battle. So that was definitely a big highlight year for Richter as far as going All-Star. And back then, the All-Star Game was a little more competitive than it's been recently. So it was a big year for him.
I think back then they used to.
Maybe those 73 ties would have turned into another 35-40 wins if he had overtime.
That's true.
So his wins could be up there compared to current players, and things could be a little different. But he'll always be remembered as a big one in USA hockey history for sure.
Definitely. All right. So Mike Richter, obviously.
My fun fact was he was selected by Nashville in 1998 expansion draft, but then somehow came back to the Rangers as a free agent.
Oh, he was a UFA? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, so Nashville selected UFA Mike Richter, who said, yeah, okay, buddy, and then he signed back with the Rangers in free agency? That's crazy.
I mean, I get my facts from Wikipedia, but that's kind of random just to sneak on there if it's not true.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah. That is crazy. I don't remember that at all. Interesting fact. I'm sure Chris or PJ will know the info on that behind the scenes. But all right, let's get into this. We got a lot to cover. So 3 games this week. Prior to the last episode, the Rangers were 24, 21, and 4. They went 1-2-0, 25, 23, and 4 now. 54 points, 6th in the Metro. They're behind the Islanders. The Islanders passed the Rangers with their win streak. 21st in the NHL. Big news this week. JT Miller traded to the Rangers finally. And it ended up being JT Miller, also Eric Brandstrom, a depth D, a former top prospect who I think this is his third team this season, but he's got some good analytics. He comes with Miller, as well as Jackson Dorrington, a prospect who's unsigned right now playing in the NCAA. In exchange, Vancouver gets Philip Hedl, Victor Mancini, another good prospect, and a 2025 first-round pick, but that pick is top 13 protected. So if the Rangers falter here down the stretch and they end up picking in the top 13, they have the option to keep that pick and move the 2026 first rounder to Vancouver. Obviously, they can choose to not do that if they want, or if they pick 14 or later, Vancouver gets the pick. So that's the deal. Miller comes as full cap hit, no retention on the deal, $8 million a year for the next 5 years. All right. I mean, let's just start there. So just, give me your reaction, Little Ed, to the trade. It was kind of an interesting, night getting the news. We get the text from PJ, from Elliot Friedman, the tweet. Talks intensifying with the Rangers. 5 minutes later, the trade is done. We don't know who's in the trade for another 45 minutes for whatever freaking reason. But that's just how it all happens. So give me your reaction. Where were you in the app? I don't know why they do that. They're like, Miller to the Rangers. And then it takes an hour to figure out who was traded. But whatever.
All these insiders know all this stuff or whatever, breaking this news, but they don't know exactly what's going on. It's just like, can you just wait until we know exactly what the trade was? But I don't know. Like, I forget where I was exactly, but I kind of had a feeling this was coming, like it was kind of just written on the wall, like drama in Vancouver, player with a no move clause, only wants to go to the Rangers. It's obviously going to happen. I saw our buddy Sean over at Hockey Night in New York try to chirp us on Twitter or X, saying like, what's up? You guys never seen a Rangers trade before? Like, yeah, obviously Drury's going to kind of fleece Vancouver and get JT Miller, 100-point player, for not peanuts, but in our eyes is pretty much a steal. I mean, you had a nice, I guess he was responding to your tweet about what the trade was, like in a deeper value, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't really surprised, and it's really exciting, I guess, to take it to the next level of how I reacted. Was this is a player that I know that the Rangers need. I know it kind of sucks that like they traded him and now trading back for him. That stings a little bit, but we've talked about that a lot on this show. But this is a player that the Rangers need. This is like, I heard it today on the radio, like where I think Johnny Laz said it, like Ranger fans, even us, we've been clamoring for Brady Tkachuk, and this is the next best thing. Like just these 2 games, he's made an immediate impact on almost every player on the ice. And he's on the ice for almost every goal that the Rangers have scored, whether it's battling someone in front, throwing a hit on the fort, whatever it is, like he's a difference maker. And it's just exciting because I know even in the locker room, like he'll like we've talked about, like he'll tell someone like it is. I mean, we've heard stories, maybe he's a little too over the top, but maybe that's what the Rangers need right now. Someone who is too over the top.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, what's your reaction? Obviously, you're not a huge Hedl fan, but, your thoughts on giving up Hedl and Mancini to promising young players and a first, and you get JT Miller in here with some other assets. Pretty good. Look, the prospect, the former 6th-round pick, Dorrington, 2023, I think. So he's still young and he's developing and he's a big body. I guess a defensive prospect to kind of fill Mancini's shoes and provide more defensive depth in the organization. But I don't really think you can write him into the lineup at any point, or Brandstrom. So it's really, just look at it like JT Miller for those 3 assets. What are your thoughts?
I think it's I'm more disappointed I'm losing Mancini than Hedl personally. Everybody knows my feelings on that. I think it's a great job. And like Eddie said, this is the guy we needed. And just watching him in these 3 games, little things like on the power play, we've seen him against the Rangers. Yeah. And maybe he might have developed this kind of player with the Rangers if he stayed. So it was kind of like sending him down to the minors in Vancouver, developing for 6 years or 5 years, becoming an elite player in the league, 100-point player. and an all-around forward, and he just shows it. I mean,
drives me crazy
so far.
Drives me crazy how the Rangers cannot develop these guys. They have to trade them, let them develop elsewhere, and then reacquire them. Maybe that's the strategy, right? Maybe it's like, let's trade Kakko and Hedel, let them just develop in Seattle and Vancouver, and then in 2030, when we need a scoring center or a two-way wing, we'll just go out and trade a first-round pick and bring Kakko in.
I mean, you can't say that it's just the Rangers. There are a lot of players. Look at Marchessault. There's a bunch of players that happens to. It's not just us.
It's big with the Rangers. The Rangers
just seems that we're focused on the Rangers because it's our team. And
no, I think it's true, Coach. I think the Rangers are good at developing goalies. Obviously, great goalie coaching, and they just develop goalies great. Defense hit or miss, but pretty good. I think overall pretty good developing defensemen. Forwards, we can't develop forwards. It just cannot develop an elite forward for whatever reason. Cannot do it. Even Laffy, if you trade Laffy right now, he goes on to become an elite player almost immediately. I guarantee it. As soon as he steps on the ice in another jersey, he's an 85, 90-point guy. 100%. 100%. No doubt in my mind.
I think the reason for it is the Rangers as an organization just refuses.
Refuses
what?
We lost you.
Yeah, lost you, little Ed. I mean, look, the trade. So here's my thoughts. I didn't give my thoughts yet.
My internet's not great right now, so I'm going in and out. You guys can just keep talking.
All right, no worries. So you guys know I love Filip Chytil. I mean, I'm a big Chytil fan. I love his game. He's fast. He creates plays.
I don't know why. I know
he carries the puck. He's one of the only forwards on the team that carries the puck into the offensive zone and makes a play. He's surprisingly good on the forecheck. He doesn't shy away unless he just got injured. Then he shies away for like a game or two. But he gets involved, and I think he's an exciting player. I think he's got a lot of promise. And with opportunity, I think he could be very successful. But let's be real. I mean, Filip Chytil's 25 now. He's not 22 anymore. And, he's never scored more than 45 points. I don't think he's played a full season in a couple of years. He can't really be relied upon to stay healthy. And that sucks, but it's just the facts, right? Like, he's had the head injuries. He alluded to some other kind of injury going on that's not a head injury. There's a reason he's been sitting out of games unrelated to the concussions. So, he's got a almost $4.5 million hit. He's 25. He's third-line center. And you're bringing in JT Miller, who fans online are like, oh, yeah, of course, the Rangers aren't even in the playoffs, and they traded a 25-year-old for a 31-year-old. And I'm like, guys, this is JT Miller. Like, I know everyone remembers JT Miller as 24 being like a bozo and kind of like, turning the puck over in the neutral zone and not being very good, I guess. This is not JT Miller that we're getting. This is a superstar in the NHL. I mean, this is a guy who is comparable to Matthew Tkachuk. Yes, he's older, but you're replacing Chytil with JT Miller. I am totally fine with that. That's a 3 to 4 year improvement. And then maybe at that point, it becomes Chytil's better than Miller if Chytil can stay healthy. So to me, that's a no-brainer. Giving up Mancini. Coach, I know you love Mancini. He's a 5th-round pick, right? I mean, he's on the cusp of making the NHL. He played 10 or 12 games this year. He did not establish himself as an NHL defenseman yet. He's still developing. He might flame out. Who knows? We have 3 right D, Schneider, Borgen, Fox. Where's Mancini going to play? So what? You would slide him into the third pair? You can just sign someone for $1 million to do that, right? Like you don't need.
Well, I'm just saying the 12 games that he played showed me
he's good.
He's gonna be an NHL defenseman. I could be
but you got JT Miller.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm fine with it. But
he got JT Miller, right? And yeah. I'm just saying, for me,
have to give up something.
For me, both of those assets, Chytil and Mancini, are not even close to the value of JT Miller. Not even close. It's not even close. Then you trade a first. Granted, the Rangers are not in a playoff spot. And I don't like trading first when you're not in a playoff spot, when you're not going for it, right? But the reality is this is not a move for just this season. This is a long-term move by the Rangers. It's a culture shock, to the organization. That's what it is. So you're giving up a first. You protect it in case the team tanks here at the end and doesn't do well. You keep your early pick. But to me, this is a no-brainer. How can you not do this trade? I think he had to, pull the trigger on this. And, Chris comments here, Staples said Vancouver wanted Drew Fortescue. Yeah, I saw that. And Elliot Friedman ran with that on his podcast as well this week with 32 Thoughts. And they talked about that, how the Canucks wanted Drew Fortescue in the deal instead of Mancini. Fortescue is unsigned, third-round pick from, I think, 22 or 23. Can't remember. But he plays with Gabe Perreault in college, and Drury wouldn't budge, giving up Fortescue. So that's, to me, a good move. I think Fortescue's got a good future. Value him over Mancini. And, look, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer. I don't know.
People have to remember, JT Miller's a 100-point player.
Even if he's not, Coach, call him a 75-point player.
He's still
with everything else. With everything else he brings, even if he regresses to a 75-point player, you gave up Philip Hedl, a good player, but he's got 18 points this year.
Big question mark.
I mean, he's 25 years old. He's not 22 anymore. And
he's played two. He's played 2 games with the Rangers. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists.
Yeah, but
he hasn't even practiced with the team yet.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean much, but yeah.
He said it himself. Yes, it does.
No, he's not going to keep up that pace, though. That's crazy. What do you think he's
going to
score?
What I'm saying is, he's not even comfortable.
Points?
He's not even comfortable with his line mates yet. He even said, he's used to being with all lefties on the power play. Now it's all righties. So he's got to get used to passing on the right side of the player. He said in an interview, I saw it on Instagram today. I forget where it was. But he said something like that, where he at Vancouver, he had all lefties on the power play. Now he's got all righties.
Well, you saw it. You saw it with the power play goal. He takes the shot from the left side. It creates a rebound, and it's in the net, right, against Vegas. So Zibanejad's goal. I mean,
that was some shot, too.
Yeah, great shot. And, he threads the needle on passes. He had that great cross-eyed pass to Panarin at one point. He's got so much skill, and he's got that edge to his game, reverse hits. He gets in front. He bangs, his body around. He pushes the D in front of the net. Even if we only get that for 3 years, for what the Rangers gave up, it's peanuts. It is. I'm sorry, guys. I know everyone out there wants to keep every prospect. Coach Ed and Little Ed will tell you that I am the biggest prospect hugger in the freaking world. They always get on me on the prospect hugging. I believe in a patient, long-term development strategy and building a team. They get on me every day about it. But this is a no-brainer. If I'm saying it, you got to calm down. This is a no-brainer. I think it's just the effect that they're bringing back Miller after giving him away for Nemesnikov in the Tampa deal. So I feel like it's just that, annoyance of that happening that makes people be like, oh, this trade sucks. If they never had JT Miller before and the Rangers got him for this deal without ever having him in the organization, I feel like fans would have a different opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
I don't see it as that.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely onto something with that.
When they lost him, no one was like, oh, they gave up JT Miller. No one really cared. So no, I don't remember anybody screaming that, oh, they should keep him and develop him.
No, people cared. People cared because they gave him away in the deal. He was just added on with McDonough in that trade. It was annoying. No one understood it.
What do you got, PJ?
2 things. In addition, I'll add on that. So when he got traded, there was actually a really good article in The Athletic a couple of years ago. He said it himself. With the Rangers, he was just not mature enough. He needed to learn. He even said after his first year, he came in out of shape. AV called him out, basically told him, "You're going to be a AHL player if you don't figure it out," and it kind of whipped him into shape. And that trade basically was his wake up call in a sense, where he said he went and just changed his whole offseason training, just became a whole different player. And you saw it. I mean, it called the Rangers not developing him possibly, but he was still a solid player then. I don't think they were trading him because he wasn't good. I think they was also right when the letter was coming out and they were just trying to change everything up. I mean, definitely a bad trade. They could have got more. But the other side of it, we're talking about Mancini and all that and who they were going to give up. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. In 2022, before the trade deadline, and we know the Rangers were trending up that year. It's when they made that run against Tampa in the Eastern Conference Final. Drury was really hard off to get Miller that year. That was right before he had one more year on his deal. Vancouver wanted Schneider, who was, remember, a rookie that year. And it's obviously hindsight, but would you have done that deal knowing you would have JT Miller 3 years younger for that playoff run, and then you would have him, throughout, including now?
Yeah, definitely. Just for Schneider, that's the deal. Schneider for JT Miller.
That was the rumor. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Straight
I love
up,
Schneider.
That's it.
I love Schneider, but if that's the deal, yes, I would have done that. I would have hated it. I would have hated it, but
that could have put him over the edge that year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. That's it's tough, but again, it's the guy is a star in this league. I mean, this is not the Rangers going out and getting Trent Frederick, which would be a nice addition, but it's not that. It's JT Miller. The guy's had over 30 goals, over 80 points, 3 straight years, including a 100-point year, a 37-goal year. He's an elite power play player. He penalty kills. He's physical. He had like 200 hits last year or something. I mean, it's crazy. Like, how many guys in the league have 200 hits and 100 points? How many players?
Not many.
I think he had 200 hits. I might be wrong about that.
Like whatever. PJ looked that one up, but we got a comment from Instagram.
Yeah, he only had 100 hits last year. So, 217 hits last year and 103 points. I was right. 217 hits and 103 points. So, crazy. I mean,
those numbers are better than Matthew Tkachuk's numbers. Yeah, now we can.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Now we got a comment from Instagram from Repta Musa, if I'm saying that right. Also, JT Miller is the type of guy you need in the playoffs. That's the biggest thing. Some of these guys disappear in the playoffs like Panarin because they get pushed around.
Yes, definitely.
I think we need players like Miller. Yeah, I agree with him. And we need players like JT to take those players and drag them into the fight and kind of lead the way, protect them a little bit while also producing. That's what we've been waiting for as well.
Somebody put up the broadcast banter. Put it up. Put up the broadcast banter.
PJ, you got.
Speaking of drag them into the fight, how many times did Joe Micheletti say JT Miller is going to drag the Rangers into the fight during the last game? He said it at least 3 or 4 times against David.
Sam's doing
Everyone's
a good job
been saying it. Every analyst, everybody.
I noticed that he's calling JT Miller JT instead of like repeating the whole name.
Well, that's what the Devils do with Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes, and you hate it. And now the Rangers are going to do it with JT and Keandre.
I never watched the Devils to know that that's what they do.
The Devils do that with Jack. They call him Jack when he gets the puck. Jack takes the puck in the zone. Super annoying.
That's crazy.
So annoying. Well, I'm just saying, you got to be consistent, right? So anyway, Miller comes over. Great trade. I mean, absolute great trade. Rangers get shellacked by Boston. Miller gets 2 goals in the game. Laviolette doesn't announce the lineup. He puts Zibanejad on the wing and Panarin on the left. Zibanejad on the right, Panarin on the left. initial reaction to that, Coach, when you see that?
I didn't go crazy. I know you were going crazy, but I'm like, let's give it a chance. That's one of the tough things as a coach is trying to figure it out. I figured he probably figured let's start out with it. They like the mix of what it is, and obviously it kind of paid off. I don't know. I didn't pay that close attention defensively. We were watching the game by Eddie's, and it was a little hectic. But yeah, I thought they played a good game. The team overall. I didn't think it was a 6-3 shellacking. They had a lot of chances. I thought Kreider was fighting hard. I thought there was a lot of good play. They just didn't capitalize, but that doesn't mean, I don't know. It's a tough analytical situation there. I thought it was very good. I thought the lines played well. I liked the mix. The initial reaction was, let's see what they got. I didn't hate it.
Yeah, but what's the, Little Ed, what's the reasoning you think of putting Zibanejad on the wing with JT instead of just going Miller, Trocheck, Zibanejad right down the middle? You got plenty of wing depth on this team. That puts you 3 centers strong. You're coaching the team. Like, why are you – and I'm not questioning it. Maybe it's a good move. But what is your thought process in saying I'm going to put Mika with Miller and he's going to play wing?
I wouldn't do it just to get that out of the way. But the only thing I could think of maybe is that he wants to take a little bit of defensive responsibility away from Mika, maybe kind of to try to get him going a little bit offensively, give him some confidence on the wing, stick handling, flying up the wall, things like that, maybe, And I don't want to say it's working, but Mika does seem like he's having a little bit more fun and he's producing, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but for now it's working, and I don't know. Like, I'm not really convinced that Mika's like this superstar two-way center anyway. So maybe he is better off on the wing.
Not anymore, at least.
At this point, I used to say he was, but now he's not. Not at this point.
Yeah. So, yeah, my thought's the same. I'm thinking maybe he wants to take some responsibilities off Mika. He's got to get Mika going. Mika Zibanejad is really important to the New York Rangers. We talked about this last year. The Rangers lost the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and we talked about it. Unless Mika Zibanejad plays differently, gets into the fight, as you want to call it, gets dragged into the fight, whatever the hell verbiage you want to use, unless that happens, the New York Rangers will not win a Stanley Cup. We talked about it. Now they have JT Miller. He could be a first-line center. No issue with him as the first-line center on a Stanley Cup winning team, in my opinion. So what do you do with Mika? Does he become an $8.5 million third-line center? Or do you try and get him going on the right wing, take some responsibility off him, just get him going, get him a couple goals, couple points, some confidence, play with a guy who's physical and wants to, to make things happen. I get it. Yeah, I don't know if I would have done it because I think it's pretty ballsy. Honestly, I think it was a pretty ballsy move to take a guy who's never played wing before, surprise him on a Saturday afternoon game and say, hey, buddy, you're going to play wing with JT Miller. That's ballsy, man. Yeah, I think. And I think Mika, honestly, has played pretty good in these 2 games. So,
he definitely got that goal yesterday, and I didn't see him celebrate like that in a long time. So,
and Coach, he crashed the net. He crashed the net.
I know, but after he got it, it was more exciting for him than when he takes a bullet one-timer.
I was baffled.
You think he celebrated like that because he was surprised that he actually did it?
He's like, oh, you could score like this?
He's like, oh, my God.
Like,
I got a lucky goal.
Yes, I did it. He literally that's how he celebrates. Like, yeah, I did it.
Well, he tied the game. We've been talking about this. Mika is still no game-winning goals this year. He's had no signature goals, none, throughout the entire season. He's got 10 goals on the year. That's a
about
huge
17
goal.
Breakaways.
That is a huge goal. The Rangers at that point, they've lost 3 games in a row. The vibes are gone. The Colorado game, losing like that. The Carolina game, getting shut out. Boston game against the opponent they're chasing. They just got JT. They get blown out 6-3. This game is huge. 2-1, third period, power play. He crashes the net. He gets a goal. That's a big goal. Now, I don't want to say it's a signature goal because I don't think it is, but it is a huge goal. So I'm hoping that gets him going. And I'm hoping that this is going to turn the tide for him. This can go one of two ways. We're going to talk about what's going to come next here for Chris Drury at the trade deadline and leading into the offseason after this JT Miller trade. And I think the way Mika Zibanejad finishes this season is going to really determine what happens next with this organization. How do you guys think about that? I mean, the rumors that Drury wants to get rid of Zibanejad, but listen, if this guy turns it around and plays like he did in the third period against Vegas, and I'm not saying he will, but if he does, $8.5 million with a rising cap, if he could play wing, he could play center, that's pretty valuable. It's no longer he's an anchor contract. At that point, it's like, hey, this guy can score 25, 35 goals. I don't know. I don't want to get too excited after one period. But I haven't seen that from Mika in 3 years.
Well, similar to what we were just saying is maybe if he continues on this path playing the wing and doing well, maybe Drury starts looking for another player like Alex Wenberg to be the center, the third line center at the trade deadline. If the Rangers end up being in a better spot in the playoff picture by that time, maybe Mika stays in the wing. And shout out to our fan Chris in the comments and always messaging us. Maybe that's what they're going, top heavy on the first line with Mika, Miller, and Kreids or whoever they decide to put there. And then they're going to go defensive structure in the bottom half, So maybe Drury goes after another cost-effective, like talent like Wenberg. I mean, I love the way that guy played or that kid played last year, like a low-cost player like that heading into the playoffs to balance out the roster, balance out the lineup would be huge.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, am I getting too ahead of myself after one period, or do you think Drury is Miller like – I look at this like Trouba was step one, like getting rid of Trouba. That was like step one in reshaping the team. Step two, getting JT Miller, moving out Hedl, right? Kako was kind of just like, we need to get rid of him because he's complaining and it's distracting the team. I feel, and getting Borgen, whatever. But I feel like that was more of a minor, call that 1A, move 1A, right? Step three, is it getting rid of Kreider and Zibanejad, maybe Panarin? Is that step three? Or can these guys play themselves into the future of this organization and stay?
I mean, moving Kreider down, moved down to the third line, right? That's a tough one. I mean, he's really only a power play kind of guy anyway. So for the last few years, that's where he's getting a majority of his goals.
He's had a really tough year, Kreider. He's got 3 assists, Coach. I keep saying it. 3 assists.
Very injured. I think he's very injured with his back, and he's really battling that.
Then don't play.
He looked good. I mean, speaking of players, he looked good last night. He looked like he was showing some speed. He won some foot races to the puck. I mean, maybe he's turning it around. I mean, I know we're harping on it, but player like JT and the way he plays, they were saying it all day on the radio and on NHL, whatever network, that type of play is infectious. Maybe Kreider sees a player like that come in and be like, you know what, I could do that still. I still got a little bit in me.
Or does it kick him in the ass and
say,
this is what's expected? Or does it kick him in the ass and say, this is what's expected? I'm going to be traded if I don't play that way.
Yeah, similar to what I was saying about Borgen. The new player comes in kind of fresh, not fresh blood, but much different player than JT was the first time around, like you were saying, so it is kind of fresh blood. And Kreider might realize I only have a few more years left of this in the NHL, never mind on the Rangers. And maybe he wants to empty the tank a little bit. But, I mean, only time will tell with these guys. I know it is still early, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I don't think JT is going to put up with anything different. So I think it's time for the rest of the roster to put up or shut up or get shipped out.
And I just wanted to pop in real quick and just reemphasize. I think there is some trepidation. I get it from people because of the way the year is gone. Like, why is Drury giving out a first-round pick and giving out futures for a guy? But we forget he's not a rental. JT helps now and in the future, and I think ultimately Drury wants to get him now because he was available now. I think
Well,
if
PJ,
this
what
wasn't
do
happening,
you say? So when you say that, the response to that is, well, he's 31. So when you say in the future, the future is 32, 33, 34, 35-year-old JT Miller. Is that the same JT Miller that we've seen the last 3 years, or is that a watered down version of JT Miller that they acquired?
right, and that is the risk. But with the cap going up, his cap hit's going to be pretty inconsequential in a couple seasons. I mean,
Bingo, bango.
you talked about
That's it.
That's
it.
You heard it. You said it earlier. He's still a point of game player this year, dealing with all the crap he's dealt with this season. And you
What
can
are the
see he
cap
looks being
figures
bigger.
that they released? You have that handy, or
I do.
95.5 for next season?
It
right?
originally was 92, so yeah, they're getting almost another 4 million for this team next year, which is huge. And
95.5, which is 7.5 increase from this season. Right?
correct. And then
Then
26, 27 will be go to 104.
104. That's another $8 million jump. That's Miller. That's jump is JT
Correct.
Miller's contract. And then the next season,
and 113.5.
113.
And important to note, these aren't just these are
that's
just
Igor's contract, and they're still at 100 mil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
And Friedman brought up a good point too. What's going to be interesting is that a lot of teams might not spend to the cap anymore because they can't afford it. Like teams are going to have internal caps. So look, that's probably a reason Colorado traded Rantanen. So this can be a huge advantage for the Rangers.
That's
PJ,
crazy.
the Canadian teams too, right? Like Friedman reported, 100. I think he said a 95.5 cap US dollars is like 140 million Canadian or something right now. So a lot of the Canadian teams are like, oh my God, we can't spend that. That's crazy. So it's going to create a new league, guys being traded, cap dump value. The value of a cap dump is going to change. The Rangers are going to have a ton of cap space. I know people are like, oh, they're spending all their cap. The Rangers still have like 20 million cap space for next year, even with adding JT Miller. Because you remember, they get moved Filipino, who had 4.5, so they really only added 3.5 next year. So I'm not concerned about the cap hit even a little bit. Are you? I mean, not even a little. He makes less than Mika.
Right. And he's delivering too. I mean,
he puts up about 30 more points, if not more.
I still believe in
big part.
I'm not giving up on him.
The big part of the whole thing is that not only does he deliver, he delivers in other ways, making other players play up, like a Matthew Tkachuk type of personality, where the guys are going to join the fight. I mean, Cooley stepped it up a notch. He's a little more inspirational.
Oh, yeah.
However he's doing it, whether the presence of him being here, whether the fear of the players being traded somewhere else makes them motivated, whatever the case is, bringing him here seems to have bolstered everybody that I've noticed watching the games. Like I said, even in the Boston game, I noticed a lot more pep in the step.
Well, just think about this. Just think about this, right? A lot of fans complain that Lafreniere's struggles and his bad decision-making is related to him playing with and learning from Artemi Panarin. Right? I mean,
I'm a big proponent of him not playing with Panarin. I said it a few weeks ago. He's getting bad habits. This is like a little line change thing.
Yeah. And you can see Lafreniere with those bad habits. So I said when they got JT Miller, I immediately texted, I put Cooley, Miller, Lafreniere. Make that the line. That would be a difficult line to play against. Just do it. Let Lafreniere learn from JT Miller's habits rather than Panarin's. If you're concerned,
he'll learn from it just watching him in practice and watching him in games. So
yeah, that's true. It's a good move.
That would be a nice line. I'm not disagreeing with you, but he's going to learn from it. He's going to see it. He's going to. It's again not to compare him to Messier, but just a presence like that and what he brings to the table. In the locker room and off the ice is big.
So before we move on to what's next, which we were supposed to have been talking about for the last 15 minutes, I want to bring up one more point. So this is the third bromance the Rangers have now. They have the Lindgren Fox bromance, right? They played together since age 13. They have the Zibanejad-Kreider bromance, where best of friends since Zibanejad's been a Ranger. And now they have the Trocheck JT Miller bromance, Coach. They've been best friends since the age of 9. Trocheck said they grew up 500 yards away from each other, which is
wow. I didn't know that.
I don't know why he said yards or whatever. I think he said yards, 500 yards away. So they played together in Pittsburgh in youth hockey. He said they've always talked about one day it would be amazing if we could play together in the NHL. And they've been best of friends since the age of 9. So we got 3 bromances now to work
and their
with.
Kids are best friends too.
And their kids are friends. Their wives travel together or whatever. Like they're really close, So that's a big. I think that'll help, Coach. I want your opinion on this. I think that'll help with Miller's kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, toxicity, whatever the hell you want to call it, that he had in Vancouver with Elias Pettersson, right? I think having Trocheck there is kind of a buffer between the rest of the Ranger locker room and JT Miller that could be useful if needed. If needed,
hey, it comes down to the same thing. There's players that can play for Tortorella, and there's players that turn him off and go the other way. And Drury's obviously bringing him in, liking that kind of personality, and he's going to bring.
Chris knows what Miller and Trocheck had for dinner tonight. I love it. It must have been posted online. Anyway, sorry. It just made me laugh. He's like, they had steak dinner tonight.
Saying.
You shall call them Sarge and Scout, right? Or whatever it is.
I forget what I was even saying.
You said there are some people who can be teammates of JT Miller and some players who won't be.
And obviously, Drury's bringing in that kind of player, and he's going to probably try to get players to rally around that kind of player. Kako may not have been that kind of player. The kind of kid that goes into shell when he gets yelled at a little bit, stuff like that. So he's going to bring in guys that are going to respond to that. I see a Will Cooley responding to that kind of a personality. I see guys that will respond to it, and the guys that won't.
Coach only wants guys from Minnesota, Michigan, and Alberta. He doesn't want any other players on the team. Just give me a team full of guys from Michigan, Minnesota, and Alberta, and a couple of guys from Pittsburgh, and he's fine. That's it. Nobody else. Anyway, the joke.
In Herb Brooks' famous line, "I have the team picked already."
So I think you're right. But I think that there's going to be guys like Mika who maybe you wouldn't suspect would respond well to JT's toxicity. Alleged toxicity that he had in Vancouver. If that happens, I don't think Mika would respond well to that. But I think having Trocheck in between the two, little Ed, is big because he can go to JT and say, "Hey, let's handle this a different way." And JT's more likely to listen because he's known Trocheck since he was 9 years old, right? So it's not just some random guy coming up to him and telling him to handle it a different way. I don't know. Maybe that's just me musing and.
No, or it may just drive Mika to say trade me.
I think it's a mutual respect thing where they might level each other out, balance each other out. I mean, Trocheck seems to be a little bit more level-headed in the interviews and stuff. I mean, JT comes across the same way, of course, in the interviews, but we hear different things. But it's also a thing where it's just be careful how the media perceives things and how they force us to perceive a situation, so maybe Vancouver media blew it out of proportion a little bit. That is actually what Johnny Lass was saying on his show this morning, that he actually texted Quinn Hughes about it. He wouldn't say exactly what Quinn Hughes said, but he basically said, just be careful how the media portrays things. So maybe it wasn't as bad as we think. And, I'm not convinced that it's going to be a cancer or it's going to be an issue. And if it does turn into one like that, then I think we can trust Trocheck will put an end to it or at least keep it within reason.
Yeah. Keep it within reason is a good way of putting it. I mean, I don't know, dude.
We've been saying it all year. Our coach has been saying it for years that Trouba needs to just grab Mika by the jersey and shake him, you need a player like that. That's not going to, Like even you look at the St. Louis Blues when they won the Cup that year, their two of their players got into a brawl, got into a fight at practice. I'm not saying that JT Miller should fight Mika at practice, but you need things like that where, like, if a player's not going to give 100%, Panarin, whoever it is, if he's dogging it on his way back to the bench, even if it's one little comment from Miller saying, "Don't dog it on the way back to the whatever," it's just you need a player like that that's not going to have any guilt, or he's not going to be afraid to speak up.
Yeah, and Mika said about JT after the last game. He said he plays with a lot of intensity. I like the way he talks a lot on the bench. He talks a lot on the ice. He has a lot of ideas, and it's good because the communication makes it a lot easier, especially early on when we haven't played together for a long time. So nothing but good things to say about JT. Obviously, he had a goal and 2 assists in the third period, and JT's got 4 points in the 2 games. So at this point, it's sunshine and rainbows for Mika and JT, but we'll see how that relationship develops. A lot of fans are expecting that to not go so well. So we'll see. But, I'm expecting him to have a positive impact initially on the team. I'm sure you guys agree. So what's next, right? Because looking at this team, they're still 5 points out of a playoff spot. They got a lot of teams to leapfrog. They're 6th in the Metro. The Islanders just passed them. They had a 7-game winning streak. So they're a point behind the Islanders. They're still 4 points behind Boston and Tampa, 5 behind Columbus and Detroit, now 10 behind New Jersey for 3rd in the Metro, and 6 behind Ottawa, who's 3rd in the Atlantic. So the Atlantic is really, those teams are battling for 3 spots, while the Metro wildcard contenders are really battling for 2. I look at this team and I'm like, all right, Riley Smith, Ryan Lindgren, Jonathan Quick, Jimmy Vesey, unrestricted. Then you got guys like Keandre Miller, Zach Jones, who's already complained, Vakanainen, Rempe, Kaliev, Cooley, Edstrom as restricted free agents. There's some more moves to be made here by Drury. But they just bought JT Miller and traded a first-round pick. Like, are they actually going to trade Ryan Lindgren for draft picks? Are they actually going to do that when they just went and traded a first-round pick for JT Miller? Are they going to trade Riley Smith when he's been pretty effective, I think, through this month of January, late December run that the Rangers had? He's been one of their better forwards, I think, 2-way. He's really made an impact. So you got to look at that and say, well, they're going to get draft picks in return, right?
I think they're going to make I think they're going to make a run for it. I don't think they're going to just trade Lindgren for draft picks, unless they have a replacement in mind to put in his spot to make some kind of a run for the playoffs. So I don't see them just panicking to get assets. I think they're going to try to make moves to solidify a team that could make a push, personally. Everybody says JT Miller's for the future also, but I think they would have waited till the trade deadline. If that was the case, I think they want to make a push.
Is that what you would do?
I would make a push for it. I think this team has got a pretty good core of players, and if they could get in, it's tough. They have a tough battle right now. If they can get in, they have a team that's a good playoff team right now, I think, with the moves he made. And one more move at the deadline, 1 or 2 small moves. So like a guy like Wenberg, like Eddie said, could make a difference. A couple of years ago, they got Kopp and Vetrano. A couple of little moves like that aren't phenomenal players, but are going to be impact players on a second, third line. I think that could be a difference.
Problem is, Coach, they have no first-round pick this year or second-round pick. They have no second-round pick actually until 2028. So when you're talking about rentals, it's going to be draft picks you're giving up. That's a risk, and you
have Zach Jones. You have Zach Jones. You have Zach Jones. You have Berard.
What is he worth? Well, Berard, you're not trading, right? Are you really trading Brett Berard?
For the right player, yes. You have.
No, he's saying you don't need the draft picks.
You have Perot. You don't have to use draft picks. You have guys that you can make a move with to get a Wenberg type of guy.
Wait. You need draft picks because those guys, when those draft picks are on the cusp of the NHL, the Brett Berards, the Perots, and those guys will be off their entry-level contracts. So you need to keep backfilling the team. You can't just dump all your picks and say, we don't need picks because we have prospects. That's a crazy way to run an organization. That's absolutely bananas. Like no team does that. Not a single team in the league doesn't care about draft picks at all. You have to keep backfilling with prospects, right? The question is, are the Rangers any worse?
Of number.
Little Ed, are the Rangers any worse if they trade Riley Smith for draft picks and play Brett Berard in his spot? Okay, that's number one. And then number two, a lot of fans think the Rangers will get better by just trading Ryan Lindgren and playing anyone else in that spot, including Eric Brandstrom, who they just got in the JT Miller deal. So they don't really view trading Lindgren for picks as like not going for it. They look at that as addition by subtraction. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying what a lot of fans think. So I just want you to comment really on both of those points. Smith out for picks, bring Berard in, play him full time, and then getting rid of Lindgren, maybe playing Brandstrom or acquiring another D in Lindgren's spot, like Coach said, bringing someone else in, maybe then doing something like that.
The problem with that is, like, yes, maybe Berard is just as good or better skilled than a guy like Smith, but when you come down towards the end of the season, you know, a player like Berard is new, he's fresh, he's young. You have no idea how he's going to react in tough situations when it comes down to it. A player like Smith, you don't really know for sure, obviously, but he's won a cup with Vegas. He's had the experience. He knows what it takes to win big games. He might be a clutch player for the Rangers when it comes down to it. You have no idea. And then a player like Lindgren, the same thing. You know exactly what you're going to get from him in the playoffs. You're going to get someone that will literally dive headfirst in front of a shot if it comes down to it. And you have someone that you may have the argument analytically that him and Fox don't play well together, but you have someone that Fox is comfortable playing with and will go out there and play, where Fox will be confident enough to play his best, knowing that Lindgren's on his left side. You know, like, fans, you got to look at the intangibles in situations like that. Sure, Lindgren's not going to put up the points. He might have a turnover here and there, but you know he's going to give 110% in the playoffs. And also the same thing with Smith. So like Coach had said, like, you got to see where they're at come the trade deadline. Obviously, that's the easy answer. But you don't just give them up for picks, in my opinion, unless you're going to get a defenseman back, someone that's like young and has a lot of potential. Maybe I don't know. But like I said, like you can't trust a young player, even Jones, how he's going to perform in the playoffs or down the stretch.
I'll tell you what, the San Jose Sharks just traded Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci to Dallas for a first and a conditional third if they win the cup or make the finals, whatever it was. If the Rangers can trade Lindgren and Riley Smith for a first-round pick, they got to do that trade. I don't care. They're 5 points out of a playoff spot. I mean, I don't care how good a run they make. I mean, in order for this team to make the playoffs, they have to play almost 700 hockey, most likely. Because one of these other teams, all it takes is one of these other teams to play 5 points better than them the rest of the way, and they're not in the playoffs. That's all. That's all.
Run that again.
I'm just saying that they're behind so many teams right now, right? I mean, you're behind Detroit, Columbus, Tampa, Boston, the Islanders. Montreal's right there. Pittsburgh's right there. Philly's right there. Are all these teams going to falter? I mean, the odds of them making it, it's there. It's possible they could make the run. But if you can get a first-round pick, and I'm not saying you make the draft pick either. You get that asset and you can trade it for something else, whatever. But that's a steal, right? Like, if you can make that trade, you got to do it. I'm sorry. I just think you got to, because I don't think
you didn't say for a first-round pick.
Well, it depends. You said for draft picks, I mean, they're rental players.
You didn't say a first-round pick. You said for draft picks.
Right. So if you're trading Lindgren for like a fourth.
No, if you're going to make a deal like that, that's different. I would contemplate it.
Right.
But I'm not moving the whole team. And yeah, they might have to play 700 hockey the way in, but they're capable of it. The Islanders just won 6 in a row. The Rangers could do it.
Yeah,
These teams might not all hold their ground either.
We'll see.
Barzal's out
we will
indefinitely.
See.
we shall see, what happens, Coach. But I think that
maybe the Rangers trade for Brock Nelson, the sniper.
No, please, God, no.
At the deadline.
What I think is the Rangers should be threading the needle between buying and selling. I'm looking at a guy like Mario Ferraro in San Jose, a defenseman who could play with Fox. The Rangers need to improve Fox's D partner. That is it's indisputable. You can say whatever you want about Lindgren. Fox's numbers, analytics, when you look at them, without Lindgren, are top 5 or 10 in the NHL. He's off the charts, amazing without Lindgren as his partner. With Lindgren, he's below 50%. So, I mean, it's pretty evident that if you just give him a competent D partner, I look at Vancouver, right? Like Quinn Hughes. Look at Quinn Hughes prior to having Philip Roenick, who's not a world beater, but he's a competent top 4 D. You look at him, how he improved once he got Philip Roenick as his partner. That's what Fox needs, right? A guy like that, like somebody who's a competent D partner. Lindgren is the third pair guy at this point in his career. That's what he is. He can't be on the first pair and you win a Stanley Cup. I just don't see it. That's my opinion. So if they could change that this year by making a couple moves, maybe you trade him for a couple picks and then you take those picks and you go get a D, fine. I don't care. I'm not saying they need to keep all the draft picks, Coach. I'm with you on that. If they can acquire a guy who, would be an improvement, I think that's the case. But I think Lindgren's time is done. And I don't know. I appreciate everything that guy's done for this team. Don't get me wrong. I love the guy. He's a warrior. And he's had a hell of a career so far. And he came out of nowhere and really established himself. But this is reading to me like Dan Girardi 2.0, a guy who's eaten so many pucks in his career and bled one too many times. Like, it's time to move on. This is the time. Right?
I wouldn't have a problem moving on if they get the right mix. Maybe Borgen could move up and play with Fox, something like that.
Oh, Schneider?
They were definitely options.
You said it, Coach. Stick with it. Stick to your guns.
I don't think you're going to blame Lindgren for the shit game that Fox played against Boston.
I'm not saying I blame Lindgren.
Oh,
you're saying
he plays better without him.
I'm saying Fox's analytics without Lindgren are top 5 or 10 in the NHL. But when he plays with Lindgren, they're not. They're below 50%.
I heard you when you said it the first time.
So that means that when he has a better partner, he plays better.
I remember a year or two ago when Lindgren was hurt, Fox was lost.
Well, that was a year or two ago.
All right, let's move on.
How many pucks has Lindgren ate since that comment?
Let's move on.
Well, guys, Coach is deciding when we talk about things now. He doesn't want to bash Lindgren anymore.
You're beating a dead horse. This
I'm not beating a dead horse.
Cachet.
I'm just disagreeing with you, and you want to move on because you don't like what I'm saying. That's what it is. But anyway, Jimmy VC, another guy commenting on the lack of ice time. I wanted to just briefly touch this, Coach. He says, I'm kind of dying by being here. This is the third guy this year, Kako, Zach Jones, Jimmy VC, who's complained about ice time. What's going on? Is this like a leadership, frustration, coaching? Like, who's really responsible? Is it on the players to know they shouldn't be talking about these things?
I mean, I think so. I mean, VC, I love the way he plays, but the Rangers gave him a life in his career. They gave him a personal, what do they call that? A personal tryout or whatever?
PTO, professional tryout.
PTO. They gave him that chance. He might be out of the NHL at this point. So I don't like the fact that he's saying stuff like that. It's like when he came in, he pumped somebody out of the fourth line. Now there's the fourth line's playing well, and he's got it's tough to take a back seat to that. Maybe he can play better somewhere else, but does another team want to take a gamble on it? I don't know. That's a tough one. I like VC, but I don't know why these guys are all of a sudden talking to the reporters and saying this stuff.
That's the issue.
I don't know if the quotes are correct. Maybe it's part of a question and it's just coming out. I don't know. Are they getting cornered?
Yeah, any thoughts before we go to Coach's Corner on the VC comments?
I mean, any player is going to be disappointed in his gameplay. I mean, especially a player like VC where Yeah, he probably could fit in somewhere in the bottom 6, but like it's a good problem to have. They're trying to give the young guys a shot. They're not really doing anything to hurt the team. Like they have some depth. I'm sure VC, if and when they make the playoffs, VC might get into a game or two in the playoffs. Like Coach Ed just said, that's just how it works. If you're not a top 6 player, your job is like in jeopardy almost every night.
Yeah, who's the least impactful guy? Edstrom, Rempe, or VC? That's the issue. Right? Who impacts the game the least of those 3 players? Right. And that's why VC's not playing. It's tough for him. I think he'll get dealt.
Yeah, it's a shame, but Edstrom goes down, VC gets a shot. VC goes down, someone else gets a shot.
Didn't Edstrom get hurt? What happened with that? He went out that third period.
Yeah, he got hurt. He's day-to-day. They didn't really go into much detail on it. But he's just day-to-day, so we'll see. So VC played last game. I don't know. I mean, to me, you see the difference with Edstrom out and VC in. I like VC. I like his attitude. I think he had a good couple years with the Rangers here after his PTO coach. He's got some skill. He's a good 4th liner, but I like Edstrom a hell of a lot better than VC at this point. And that's just I'm sure Laviolette does too, and that's why he's playing, right?
And I was just going to pipe in real quick that the reason VC kind of lost his job there was he got hurt at the end of camp and he got put on LTIR and essentially lost his spot. Chris brought that up in the comments that Smith took that PK role, Carrick took the PK role, even Cooley stepped in. So when VC finally did come back, where was a spot for him? I mean, he's been great Ranger, but he's nailed it. I mean, the other guys have stepped in, and honestly, they haven't missed him. But it's nice to have him to step for sure.
No, it is, but these guys are playing for their lives. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's already been the PTO route, I think, twice. He wants to prove that he can still play in the league, and he's not getting an opportunity. So I don't have a problem trading VC. I don't think he's worth much, but he might get a 3rd or a 4th from a contender for depth, and could like a Tyler Mott kind of a trade, right? I think somebody would look at him like that. So we'll see. But all right, Coach. Let's go to Coach's Corner. I want to talk about these early goals and these late goals. Put up the graphic and
Hey, everybody. Coach Ed here. I'm over here in the shop at Bella Italia, Marble, Granite, and Quartz, picking up my order for a nice little bathroom I'm doing. I've been a contractor almost as long as I'm a hockey coach. So listen to me when I tell you, when you want the quality work and craftsmanship, come and see the boys over at Bella. They serve all 5 boroughs, Westchester, Long Island, all the way out to Montauk. Whether you're a Ranger fan, Islander fan, Devils fan, they're going to take care of you no matter what. Make sure you give them a call, 516-561-1018. Let's go, Rangers.
All right, boys, bring it in.
Switch Coach on the big screen. All right, Coach. Early goals in the period and the games. Rangers have been, I think PJ put the stat up, if you could chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 5 goals in the first minute of a game this year. And then goals at the end of periods. You saw it in the Carolina game. They scored 2 minutes into the game, minute into the game. They scored at the end of the second and 2 goals at the beginning of the third. Number one, as a coach, that's got to be the most frustrating thing that can happen. But how do you identify why that's happening, and why do you think it's happening with this team?
I'd like to know the stats on who was out there when this is happening most of the time. I mean, you try to do it as a coach where you only play certain players or lines who are going to focus on puck management. That needs to be focused on in player meetings and whatnot, but you're always going to have players who aren't good in those situations. So if I'm coaching a game and I'm going at the end of the period, we just scored a goal with 5 minutes to go in the period, we take a 2-1 lead. I'm going to try to protect that lead a little bit going into the second and not put certain players in playing a lot where they're not going to manage the puck well. They're not going to dump it in. They're not going to cycle. They're not going. They're going to try to do that Panarin type of play too much. You try to tell them on the bench, let's do it. And if the kid's not doing it, if the player's not doing it, then to me, you got to hold them back a little bit. That's where that benching should come in, where you talked about last week, or not playing them in certain situations. That's my opinion. A lot of these coaches rely on that stuff as far as putting Panarin out there in certain situations. I don't see it personally, and that could be it. I don't remember who got the minuses in those situations, to be honest with you. But that just kills a coach when that happens.
Well,
everybody says, like Sam will always say, the Rangers need to get out to a fast start, a hot start. And then they just let up like 2 quick goals or 1 quick goal. It's tough.
Yeah, chasing the games. And, I just think about when, from when I played at the, levels I played at, when we give up a goal early in a game, it's just so deflating, right? Like you have a game at 6:00 and, wherever it is, you get ready, you go to the game, you're with your teammates before, you do the helmets and gloves in the locker room, whatever you do, everybody's amped up. And then you give up a goal in the first minute and it's like, you're gripping your stick tighter, you're stressed, your coach is mad. There's just a lot of negativity around that continuously happening. And I feel like as an adult, I look back and I kind of say it's like on the coaches, right? To like prepare the team. I don't know if that's the case at the NHL level, but I know at your level, it probably is, right? A little bit like,
I mean, the only preparation we could do, I'm sure it's discussed too many times in the pro level, what to do when, in this situation, that situation. But again, you have guys with high skill on the other team. One bounce of the puck this way and that way. A guy like McKinnon is in, bang, it's in the net. So it's a matter of hitting a baseball a millimeter higher on the bat and it's out of the park, or, it's those little fine things. It's hard, especially at the NHL level. But on our level, you try to say to the guys, let's get out there. We had a game last night against the first place team, 0-0 after 1. Come out and say, guys, this is a great job. Let's keep managing the puck well. Let's get blah, blah, blah. Second period starts, they get 2 goals in the first minute and a half, the other team.
Yeah.
So now the thing is, how do you respond? The good thing is we responded with a goal in the next shift. So, yes, it shows adversity, how you're going to respond, because it's going to happen in the playoffs, and there's no margin for error in a 7-game series. So it kind of builds character. It can't happen 5 games in a row, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 5 in a row, but,
whatever the number is, it's way too much.
When I was younger, my dad used to tell me the most important shift is the first shift after a goal. And that whether you score or they score, that was the most important shift for you, right? And I almost think like putting that aside, when you're starting a game, if you're struggling giving up goals, does it make sense to play a little more conservative to start a game? I mean, against Carolina, Panarin with the turnover in the neutral zone leads to a goal against, right? Like just dump it in.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Manage the puck like you're saying. Like just maybe play a little more simple, get through the first minute without giving up a goal, get into the game. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
That's a horrible decision. And against a team like Carolina, you can't do that. It's got to be a playoff atmosphere. You don't want to do that in playoff games either. I'm not saying play defensively, but you have to play percentage. You always talk about analytics. Percentage-wise, what's the better play? Getting it in and having whoever was the center at the time. Was JT Miller on the team? No, not against Carolina. So get the puck in deep. Let Trocheck go in. Whoever's on the other wing, Laffy, and keep it in their zone. Don't give them in a neutral zone where they could turn it into our zone in less than 3 seconds. And now we're back checking, now we're scrambling, and now they're, that's managing the puck. You have to play smart. You can't always make that same move all the time. You have to look, Panarin should know if he dumps the puck in 3 times in a row, in the defenseman's mind, they're going to cheat a little bit. The other center's going to cheat a little. Now he'll have the middle of the ice. He's smart enough to know that he shouldn't do this. We've been saying this for 3 years.
PJ, you got the stats?
I do. Yeah, I just the stats are you said it 5 times now. They give up a goal within the first minute. When you push it out to 2 minutes to start a game, it's 9.
And that's first in the NHL, right?
Yes.
That's the most in the NHL. Yeah.
And you push it out to 5 minutes, 20. I mean, like, they are constantly chasing games. But my question for coach was too, like, it just seems like that's been a habit all year. Managing the game just in general. It feels like,
you know what?
Is that a coaching
it's
thing?
Not all year, PJ. It's last year. How many comeback wins did they have? That shows you that they were constantly giving up goals early in the game, second period. They had to come back constantly. And that over the long run, that's not going to be a good position to be in. You know, you get away with it. Look at this year. They're not able to do that.
Yep.
So last year they were getting power play goals that they were getting, and they were able to come back. This year they're not getting. Zibanejad's not putting it in the net. He's not finding that short side. So now they're not getting the comebacks. So over the long run, that's going to bite you in the ass. You don't manage.
But do you attribute that to coaching, like not just having them not? Is that a player thing or a coaching thing when they're not ready either start a game or know like the situation? We look back to the Colorado, right? That last second, know the situation, get to OT. Or like late in periods, get to the end of the intermission.
I preach it. I preach it all the time. I told my guys last night we have 4 games left. This is a tryout. If you guys don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not going to be playing a lot going into the stretch. Because I'm not losing games because you're going to try to do something that is not positive. So you have to test them under pressure. I said it last year. Then I don't think they're going to win a cup with Panarin as their top guy. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Yeah, he puts up 100 points a season. But his negative is tough.
Well, he could be the secondary guy, right? To JT.
And the other teams are figuring it out, clogging the neutral zone. They're jumping that pass, and they're creating chances. Look, even if the other team doesn't score, it wears you down. When you have to play a 200-foot game, it wears you down. And then what I mean by that is going back and forth. If you can get it in the zone and play offensive zone, get a whistle, get a face-off in the offensive zone, you're in the zone still. You get a fresh line out. But when you got to chase up and down the ice, you get tired, the bad line change, and it's all over. And over the course of 60 minutes, it just wears down the D. You know, you're putting pressure on a guy like Lindgren who may be limping, stuff like that. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope JT does get him to show up. Maybe he will wake him up a little bit. Maybe he's that Jonathan Toews type of player.
Yeah.
Who's going to wake him up. Maybe they could sign Toews. He's looking to make a comeback as a third-line center.
Maybe. I'd be for that. I love Jonathan
That's a
Toews.
good third-line center.
So let's leave it at that and just, manage the puck better, like Coach says, and maybe play more conservatively. I don't know. Something, but they can't be giving up.
I know it's a running gun league now because there is a lot of speed and skill. But when it comes down to it, the old dump and chase is always the puck management game. If you have the players, that opens up situations for the skill by creating a mental thing on the other team. So when you can dump it in and beat them up a little bit, it just wears the team down. It's the oldest thing that in hockey, and it hasn't gone away in 100 years.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's do our milestone moment, and then we'll do our quarter century team. So let's jump to the milestone moment. Finally, Jonathan Quick,
JQ,
with his win number 400, first U.S.-born goalie to reach 400 wins against his old team, of course. So congratulations to Jonathan Quick, a first ballot Hall of Famer, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and now a member of the 400 career win club and the only one born on U.S. soil. Congratulations to Jonathan Quick. Pretty awesome stuff right there. Anything else to say, boys? You want to shout him out? Anything? Feel free. All right.
Who would have thought we liked him this much after 2014, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you saw Henrik tweeted, "Congrats, Quickie," and I was like, "Ooh, Hank, don't do that, buddy. Don't do that."
But you can tell just how much the guys love him. love him. I mean, the comments last night, I mean, just glowing. I mean, Keandre was talking about how much he, even when he's not playing, how great he is as a teammate, just opening doors for guys, keeping guys focused on the game. It's just
forget that. You heard his comments. They asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I've played with a lot of great players who really care about winning." I was like, "What an answer!"
Humble.
What an answer. True class act. Great. I love the fact that he's been able to resurrect his career with the Rangers as a Ranger. He was a Ranger fan, and he was written off. And when they signed him, I was not too thrilled. And he has really done a hell of a job. Benoit Allaire and the Rangers coaching really helped him tweak a few things and kind of sustain his life here to get to 400. Pretty impressive stuff, Jonathan Quick. Okay. So last week we talked about the Rangers and the NHL actually unveiling the quarter century teams for all the organizations out there. The Rangers quarter century teams were released. We had a couple of issues with them. So we decided, let's have some fun with it. We'll do our quarter century teams. Each one of us picked our favorite players from this quarter century. It was tough. It was tough for me to narrow it down. I had a few guys on the edge. So we all did it. Let's start with Little Ed. Little Ed, let's put his team up there, his graphic, and then let him talk about his quarter century team. I only start with you because you said I always end with you. So here we go. You can start.
Did I say that?
Yeah, last episode.
Well, I apologize. I apologize if my service isn't great, so I'll try to make this quick. But my three forwards are Stepan, Rick Nash, and Brandon Prust. I mean, you think about that Stanley Cup run. I mean, Stepan has given us so many highlights. I always think back to that time we were watching the game in the bar in the city, and he scored that overtime goal. That was probably one of the coolest moments we had as Eds together, long before the podcast even started. So that was a huge moment that stuck out to me. Yeah, that was a huge moment that stuck out to me when I was trying to put together this list. And I always remember on Facebook, there was early days of memes. It said, keep calm and step on. And that always just stuck with me. I don't know. Stepan was he was always a cool player to watch. Team USA.
I think that was 2015, not 14 though. But yeah, I remember that, the Washington one. Yeah,
the second run, to the Eastern Conference Final. But either way, love Stepan. Rick Nash, kind of self-explanatory. Prusty, we named our cat after Prusty back in the day. We still got him over at Coach Ed's house. So Prust was always a fun player to watch. One of those players that just stuck up for your teammates, I guess, like a Matt Rempe we talk about now, Edstrom. I don't know who else, Ryan Reeves. It was just a fun player to watch always. Of course, Dan Girardi, my favorite player, or favorite Ranger of all time. Yeah, favorite player or favorite Ranger of all time, I'd have to say. And then Mark Stahl. Always a pleasure watching Mark Stahl try and battle Ovechkin or Crosby early days before he got his injury and his career started to go downhill a little bit. But in the early days of his career, watching him battle those two superstars game in, when the Rangers had to play those teams a lot more often before the schedule change, when they had to play the Metro teams 6 or 7 times a year, maybe might have even been 8 times. But whatever, it just felt like they were always playing Crosby and Ovechkin, and Stahl always stepped up to the task. And then obviously Hank and net.
Yeah, who else, right? All right, so Stepan Nash, very heavy on the mid tens, I guess you would say. That seemed to be your favorite era. I think all those guys are from 2012 to 2015 range. So,
college.
The Rangers were
college
they were
years.
Successful there. Yeah, they were successful.
Yeah, I didn't want to be too recency biased, and it was fun to think back on that team.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to Coach Ed. Let's put Coach Ed's quarter century team up, his favorite players from the last quarter century. I'd love to know his selection
I don't have Coach Ed. He submitted his team too late.
I'm shocked by that. I'm shocked by Coach Ed.
Story of my life, boys.
He ignored the chat for 2 days and then saw the text at 7:58 p.m. and sent his team over. All right, Coach, just tell us your team then.
So I got to go with the 250 goal scorers, Kreider and Yager right off the bat. I mean, Kreider's an 8-9 year Ranger or whatever the number is right now. Yager, for those few years, scoring 50 was big. I know Graves got it, but he was a big part of a resurgence with the Rangers. Got the Garden alive. My third forward, I went with Zuki. He's one of my favorites. Just that smile on his face. I just love that guy, man, when he was here.
Jeez, I forgot Zook.
Forgot about Zuki. Oh my!
And then Kathy stalking him outside the arena in his car was one of my.
Zook would have to.
How did I forget about Zuki?
Crazy they got him for free, undrafted free agent.
Yep.
From Norway, no less.
So is Girardi.
So, on my defense, I went with
definitely on my list. I'm changing mine.
Yeah, Zuki's got.
I waited till the last minute, but I came up with a good one.
Now
Now everybody wants Zuki. Look at that. Cousin Ed changing his under the table now.
My graphics already made, but I would put Zook there too. I would totally put Zook there for sure. He was awesome.
On the back end, I got Ryan McDonough as a captain. I thought he was part of a big resurgence in that 2014 run. And moving on from there, and I picked up Dan Girardi as the pair for him. Just sacrificing, just fun to watch against those same battles against Ovechkin. And, of course, Hank in that. I was going to put Louis Domingue in that to throw your curveball, but
all right. Well, that's good, Coach. I like the picks. All right, PJ, who you got on your quarter century team? Show your graphic up.
Let's get this up. So I went kind of what we were talking about last week, just the most fun guys to watch. And Yager's just like Coach Ed said. I mean, they were in the dark days with Yager coming in and just had the MVP. I still think he got robbed in 05-06 MVP. Sports Illustrated had the Rangers dead last in their predictions, and they made the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. He was just a joy to watch. Especially automatic on the power play. And then Gabrick was a blast to watch too. I mean, that guy just flew up the ice. And 2 out of his 3 full years, 40 goals or more. And he just was a sniper to a T. And he was doing that under Torres. I know Torres didn't like him, which led to his exit, but still a blast to watch. Just like Little Ed, I had Rick Nash. I like the big names, and I thought especially 14-15, a lot of people forget. I mean, he was having an MVP type year too. He was incredible, throughout, at least through February, where he was dominating every game. I felt like he scored.
Two-way force. He was underappreciated because he struggled in the playoffs, but he was good.
100%. I mean, that year 2014-15, they actually had a lot of big goals, especially in the Tampa series. They just couldn't get past that Game 7, which will never get that pit out of our stomach. And then Fox, I brought in this year. Just no defenseman they've had has been like him. His brain is just beyond belief what he does on the ice. I think just because of this year, he's still having a good year, but we forget, quickly how good that guy is. And I threw Kleiner in there. I was trying to think of someone different. That guy scored a lot of big goals. That's one tough SOB. I mean, think about the overtime goals he had in the regular season. I remember one against Detroit, one against Pittsburgh. We were missing half his ear. He came back against Jersey. I mean, the guys loved him. That was a big trade that kind of solidified their D when they traded Del Zotto for him.
Yeah.
So,
I like Klein too. Yeah, he was back at the Garden last year.
He was a weirdo, man. He just retired randomly.
And then one last cherry on top that he gave the Rangers. He just retired out of nowhere.
Yeah.
When he had 2 years left or something on his deal, and gave him great cap space when they needed it.
Yeah.
It was like he gave him one more gift as he left.
Yeah, he pulled a Dustin Byfuglien and just was like, I'm done. All right, good choices there. Yeah, I debated Gabrick. Let's put my team up. Talk about mine. So this was really hard for me. I've liked a lot of players, obviously, over the years, and Zuccarello probably should have been on this team. I will say, Coach, I totally overlooked that. But I just couldn't. I started with I got to pick Brandon Dubinsky. Right, he's got to be there because I loved Brandon Dubinsky, man. I was obsessed with him. I have 3 of his jerseys. I have 2 of the same jersey in my closet of Dubinsky. So, I had to pick Brandon Dubinsky. Obviously, Jaromir Jagr. And the reason I took Jagr is not for the year he had or anything, but I remember those dark ages when I was they call them the dark ages of the team, where they just buy all this talent and never win. Kovalev, Bure, Lindros, right? All those guys. And Yager was like the last. Yeah, he was like the last one acquired during the dark ages. And then Sather just blew up all those guys, traded them all, but kept Yager, made it through. He made it through the turn, and then like he just like elevated the team into a contender with the Straka and the Czech connection and all that. So for me, it was like a turning point in like, oh, okay, like this guy's good. He's actually not a veteran they bought who sucks. It's possible. So Yager was a big deal. And I went with Bushnevich. I was debating between Bushnevich or Gaborik. Now I chose Bushnevich. I chose Bushnevich because he was one of, I'd say, like as an adult, one of the first prospects that I followed pre-draft and watched him develop closely throughout the years. And he was kind of a long shot to be an NHLer. I mean, he's a 3rd-round pick. And I was really hopeful. I was like, oh, this kid might have some elite talent. So I always had like an extra little layer of hope that he would be successful and make it, because I really followed him closely. The Rangers had no 1st or 2nd-round pick that year. They had 3 thirds. They took Duclair, Bushnevich, and other guy. Yeah, Duclair, Bushnevich, and another guy. And 2 of them ended up being pretty good NHLers. I can't remember the 3rd guy. Bushnevich,
I don't think it's worth remembering.
Yeah, I took Bushnevich for that reason, because I followed him, and then I was really disappointed when they traded him, obviously. The other guy I was debating was Gaborik. I loved Gaborik, but I couldn't get past the Gaborik memes in the playoffs where they were calling him Maid Marian from Robin Hood. And it just reminded me that's not. Yeah, he was the part of the same problem, right? A guy who was too soft in the playoffs. Like it was that same idea. So I was like, I'm not going to pick.
Although he did have that big game 3 triple OT winner against Washington.
Well, Panarin had a big Game 7 winner against Pittsburgh. Yeah. It doesn't mean he's not soft, right? I mean,
right. Although Gaborik did freaking burn us in 2014, kind of came back around.
Oh no, he became an elite grinder and won the Stanley Cup with LA as soon as he was gone, right? I mean, second he was off the Rangers, he same thing with that's what all the guys do, man. That's
why they always form us the X.
Yeah, exactly. And on D, so those are my forwards as far as like favorite guys I liked. I mean, there's probably a list of 10 guys I could pick here, and you could put Zook over Bushnevich, realistically. So then Fox and McDonough to me are obvious. I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed McDonough a lot. Obviously, he was a fun guy to watch. They got him for Gomez. What a steal that was. Just him being awesome was just such a, I love that story. Like, can't believe they got him for Scott Gomez. And, just through every time they play in, what's his name? Pierre, what's the guy that used to do like NBC? Yeah, Pierre Maguire would just bring up that Scott Gomez trade like every single game. And then, thought he could be a Norris candidate after that 2014 run. Didn't work out that way, but he was great. Fox obviously is, like PJ said, he covered that. And Hank is Hank. I mean, who else are you going to pick? There's nobody else to really even come close to picking over Hank.
I'm still bummed Little didn't pull Igor for his goalie.
Nah, he would never. Even, I think Igor could win like 4 Stanley Cups and I'd still pick Hank just because that's our, I had posted when Hank retired, it was a big deal for me. I was like, this is the first guy that I watched.
Quarter century's over. Igor will be in the next quarter century.
Right.
Respect it.
But this is the first guy that like I watched as an adult from beginning to end of his career, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Like that, I mean, or like an elite guy like that. Like that's he's the first one. So that was impactful. Most of the other guys we're talking about here, I started seeing them when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You're a kid. So it's different.
Well, fellas, I got to sign off after that Pavel Bushnevich pick. I just can't even tolerate any more talk about the Rangers anymore.
Coach,
in 25 years, in 25 years, he's making your top 5 Rangers?
No, my favorite Rangers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was favorite, not top 5. Coach, who's your doghouse pick before you go?
I'm going with Igor.
Interesting.
A couple of 4-0 shutout. He's got to play tougher in those games. I wouldn't have been confident playing
star
against
of the
Vegas.
week too.
My star of the week, I'm going to go with Quickie. I got to give it to Quickie because 400 win. I'm going to go with the goaltending.
Classic. It's classic. All right, Coach. Have a good night, man.
All right, boys. Have a good night. Love you guys.
Love you, man.
See you, Coach. What a guy.
I'm just dead. All right, let's go to our stars of the week. All right, so we got the stars of the week up. I didn't hear the music. I was waiting for it. So, Coach, player of the week, Jonathan Quick, Doghouse, Igor Shesterkin.
A lot over here, so my connection.
Little Ed, who you got player of the week in Doghouse?
Player of the week, I gotta give it to JT Miller, coming in, making an immediate impact for all the reasons we already talked about. And I'm picking Doghouse right now already.
Oh yeah, we'll do player of the week. You're right. What am I doing? I also went with JT Miller on my.
Sorry, fans, my connection is awful, so I apologize if I'm coming in and out.
No, you're good. 4 points for JT Miller in these 2 games, and obviously impactful in the only win, getting Mika going, all that. So JT Miller to me is the pick. PJ, who'd you take for your player of the week?
Yeah, you guys nailed it. I mean, geez, who could you pick in that Carolina game? That was just brutal. But yeah, JT, I mean, Chris said it earlier, 7 of the 8 goals they've scored in the last 2 games. He's been on the ice for. Just what a difference maker. The power play all of a sudden just looks so much different with him, just moving around. He gets shots through. He's always going to the net. I mean, very impressive so far.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so 3 JT Miller and Coach with Jonathan Quick on player of the week for the Doghouse. Coach went with Igor. I could have went with Igor, actually. I think he's close to deserving it this time. I mean, 3 straight games with 4 or 5 goals against. It's, after the 2 shutouts and all that. I mean, he's just being a little inconsistent here. Little Ed taking a victory lap. But I'm going to go with the Fox Lindgren pair for being on for so many goals against in these games. I just think that pair has just been horrible this week. So yeah, Fox Lindgren pair for me. PJ, who you got for your Doghouse pick?
Yeah, I piggybacking off you. I mean, I wasn't going to go full pair because I thought Fox played pretty well yesterday. I was going to include Fox until yesterday. He made an unbelievable pass to Waffy. Lindgren was just horrific in the last 2 games. Not only some of the plays he made defensively, but
careful. If Coach Ed hears you say that, he's going to end the segment and make you move on to the next segment.
Fair enough. But I mean, it's not just the plays too, the bad penalties. Against Boston, they're playing a pretty good period. They're just about to call off a penalty. Takes another bad cross-checking penalty, leads to a 5-on-3, leads to the first goal. At the end of the first, it was just a killer when they had a tie game. And then yesterday, same thing. It's Vegas. End of the first period, bad penalty. Vegas is electric on the road on the power play, and they score. And it's just those are killers.
Terrible penalty. I agree. That pair was just brutal. I know Fox made some good offensive plays, but he's got to be better defensively too. I mean, Little Ed called it out in the chat on one of the goals. He's like, Fox just terrible play, or whatever he texted. And then you look closely and you're like, yeah, he's just gliding back, giving so much room. He's not in the guy's face. He avoids the block. He turns his body to not block the shot. I don't know what the hell he was doing. So he ended up just screening the goalie. It was just ridiculous. Yep. I don't know. Little Ed. Who's your Doghouse?
Call that a popsicle.
Yeah, for real.
No, it's like when you try and get as skinny as you can, so you don't screen the goalie. It's called like a popsicle stick. So I went with Igor as well. I know you guys are thinking, yeah, it's a victory lap, but in my opinion, I know you said earlier the Bruins game was a blowout. 6-3 on the score sheet, it looks like a blowout, but 1 or 2 saves, a timely save when the Rangers, I think they made it a 5-4 game or a 4-3 game, I think it was. And then I don't want to say it was a weak goal. I don't want to say it's a weak goal, but it's a savable goal. Like we set it up. I said it last episode or 2 episodes ago. We're looking for Igor now in this stretch to come up in these big games and make those big saves. Yes, to keep the Rangers in the game because they're not firing on all cylinders right now. So it's even more important for Igor to be the best player on the ice. And to me, in the Bruins game, he simply wasn't. So it's hard to give it to anybody else right now because everyone's taking that turn and playing a lot better. So now it's his turn. Let's see what he does this week because it's another tough stretch of games.
He needs a big bounce back against Boston for sure. I agree. I don't think there was a lot of like egregious goals he gave up, but you can't give up 14 in 3 games.
But he's just got to come up with that big save. When the Rangers are trying to battle back, they almost did. And similar to what we were saying about letting in a goal like in the first couple minutes of a period or the first couple minutes of a game, similar to that where when the Rangers come in and they make it a 4-3 game, you got to come up with that next big save so then they could try to tie the game.
It's funny. It's funny because like in your different, Rangers fandom relationships, you kind of take on different roles, right? So like in this one with Little Ed, I got to be the Igor defender because he's just so hard on Igor. But I have a friend who is so soft on Igor that I have to bring him back to reality. So in those chats, I'm more so like, hey, dude, like you're paying this guy his money to make a save. I'm not going to litigate every goal with you, right? Like we can look at every single goal and blame someone other than Igor. It does not matter. He's got to make a big save in the Colorado game. Come up with a save somewhere to get a point. In the Boston game, keep that game for the Rangers score. They make it 4-2 early in the third period. And then boom, a minute later, it's 5-2. Like make that stop. Keep that game 4-2. The team might come back. Maybe they don't, but maybe they do. Look what happened against Vegas, right? They tie the game early in the third period and nothing after that, right? It wasn't 3-2 Vegas quickly. That's kind of how it's been feeling with Igor in these games. So I agree with you, Little Ed. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think you're a little too hard on Igor sometimes. That's all. Just give you.
You guys want to do highlight? I know you said that too. I know.
Oh yeah,
I have a good one.
Yeah, we can do our highlight play. Did you prepare a highlight play, Little Ed?
Yeah, I'm going with the Mika driving to the net. That's my highlight play of the season. Never mind the week.
Yeah, highlight play Mika driving to the net. All right, PJ, you're itching over there to.
I was. I'm fired up about it. It got me off my couch yesterday. It felt good. It was like that Keandre Miller goal yesterday, and I'm not just talking about the goal itself, which was a sick shot. That shift, go back and watch the entire shift. It could be art, and Boyle said it too. Could be the best shift of the season considering the stakes. Yeah. They keep it in multiple times. Borgen hits the post. They recover the puck. A lot of great passes. They got Vegas running around. JT puts it down low. Panarin wins a battle on the boards against one of their big defensemen. Goes to Mika, who sets up Miller, and he hammers it. I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna agree. That was a great shift, but for me, it's simple. The Will Cooley hit on Pietrangelo. What a hit, dude. I mean, to just go full speed into that guy. I mean, that is a big guy. He's a big D, man. That's a battle-tested Stanley Cup winning big defenseman, and Cooley just bulldozed him. And then again at the freaking fight, yeah, to have the balls to throw that hit, that was a big hit, man.
JT Miller after the game was raving about that too. It got him fired up. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Because everyone fired up, man. That was a monster hit. And that is maybe a little bit of a JT Miller effect on Will Cooley. So that's my highlight of the week.
Definitely.
All right, boys. Let's turn it over to Mikey P with the Rangers Ed 150 and then wrap it up with our upcoming schedule.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rangers Ed Fantasy Hockey 150. Jumping right into some news, the NHL GMs appear to be under the impression that the Four Nations face-off is the trade deadline, with 2 more blockbusters being pulled off. One between the Rangers and Canucks that saw JT Miller moving back to New York and Philip Hedl heading out west to join the Vancouver Canucks. Miller had 2 goals in his first game back with the Blueshirts on Saturday night, but unfortunately they still took the L against the Boston Bruins. Second trade, we saw Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci, formerly of the San Jose Sharks, be traded to the Dallas Stars in exchange for a first and conditional third-round pick. Trades aside, Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars collided knee-on-knee with Mark Stone on Tuesday of last week and will reportedly miss extended time, so fantasy owners should be making long-term contingency plans. Vander Chushkin of the Colorado Avalanche suffered a setback and will be out until later on this month. And lastly, Linus Ullmark is back practicing with the Ottawa Senators after missing 18 games with a back injury and could be back in the lineup as early as this week. On the waiver wire, we have some good pickups. First off, Vlad Nemestikov of the Winnipeg Jets. Vlad is centering that second line, playing on the second power play, and owned in only 6% of Yahoo leagues. He had a goal and an assist in 2 games last week. And in case you're living under the rock, the Winnipeg Jets are an absolute wagon. And when they're going, which they are right now, most of their players are viable fantasy options. Next up, we have Simon Holmstrom of the New York Islanders. Holmstrom is centering their third line, playing right wing on their third line with JG Pageau and Casey Cizikas, and he's put up 3 goals and 3 assists in his last 2 games. To boot, the Islanders do have 3 games left this week before the Four Nations face-off break, so if your team is looking for some offensive firepower, Simon Holmstrom could. Third and final pickup for this week, we have Philip Hedl, now of the Vancouver Canucks, owned in only 1% of Yahoo leagues. Hedl was traded for Miller, as we previously mentioned, on Saturday, and will be seeing top 6 action for the Canucks as their 2C. Canucks also have 3 games remaining before the break, and with Miller out of that locker room, Hedl has a chance to establish himself as a permanent fixture in that top 6. And under Rick Tocchet, he may very well find his home in Vancouver. Before we tip the hat to a few great performances last week, we want to revisit our waiver wire pickups from last episode to make sure we didn't strike out on any picks. So first up, Gary Kanyemi had a goal and an assist last week and is still a viable fantasy option as that 2C for the Carolina Hurricanes, especially if he develops chemistry with Taylor Hall, who was recently promoted to second line right wing. Yuri Kulich had 2 goals and an assist for the Buffalo Sabres in 2 games last week and is still playing alongside Tage Thompson on that first line. So still a good fantasy option there. And finally, Mason McTavish had a goal and an assist in 2 games last week. So no real misses on our wire pickups. On to our tip of the hat, we had Josh Norris of the Ottawa Senators put up 3 shorthanded points last week with 2 goals and an assist coming shorthanded and an additional even strength goal to help the Sens put up a 3-0-0 record last week. Second, we have Sens D-man Jake Sanderson, who put up 7 points, 2 goals and 5 assists with 3 points coming on the power play and 2 coming short-handed. And finally, Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets found his scoring touch once again, putting up 3 assists in games last week. Short-handed goal against for a couple weeks on Pete, but came with 4 goals in 4 games last week. Folks, we got lots of great hockey coming up this week, so make sure to tune in next week for more news, updates, and insights. This has been your Fantasy 150.
All right, great job by Mikey on the Fantasy 150 there. Let's take a look at our upcoming. Yeah, of course. Hedl special pickup. Yeah, I agree. But anyway, let's take a look at our upcoming schedule, sponsored by Sorrento's of Long Beach. Make sure you order your game day meal for these games. We're going to do it a little different. So last week we started this thing where we're going to pick the games, to see what our record is, but it didn't really work out because none of us were right, so we weren't sure how to actually track it. So, PJ, you want to prompt everybody on how we're going to do this going forward?
Yeah, let's change it. I love that music. I was so I think it'll be easier if we actually go game by game and pick win-loss first each game. Then we can track your record truly instead of just going record for the week, and then we can really hold everyone accountable so who's doing well.
Yeah, I think that's best. So what is it? You get a win if you're correct, or you get a point if you're correct? How are you doing it?
Yeah, I'll just do win-loss. So you pick the correct result, whether it's OT, loss, win, no matter what. You get a win for that. And if you're incorrect, even if... Yep.
So if we pick the Rangers to lose, we get a win if they lose.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. That's not confusing. All right, so let's start with the Boston. Little Ed, you go first. So pick Boston, win or loss, Pittsburgh, win or loss, Columbus, win or loss.
I think Little Ed's having internet difficulties.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm going 3-0 in this stretch.
3-0. He's got win across the board.
I hope your lips to God's ears, Little Ed.
Yeah. I think coming off the Boston loss,
my connection is horrible, guys. So just go on without me here.
We got you. I think the Boston coming off the Boston loss, I think it's a win. So I think they're going to bounce back and win that game, especially with the good vibes coming out of Vegas. So I'm going to say a win against Boston. Pittsburgh, I'm going to say a win. I think they're going to beat Pittsburgh, and honestly, Columbus, they just lost Marchenko. They played the Rangers well last game. It was kind of a low-chance game, a shootout win, 0-0. Both goalies got shutouts. But I just can't pick them to lose to Columbus, even with Columbus this season. So I agree with Little Ed. I'm going 3-0 in these three. What do you think, PJ?
I love the confidence. I agree on Boston wholeheartedly. One, it's a must-win. Igor needs to bounce back. Team needs to bounce back. They're at home. And they got a couple days off. And then, Pittsburgh is just they got to beat them. Malkin's hurt. It's just been a mess. And then, your Columbus is a tough one, right? It's the back-to-back. Columbus is rested. The Rangers aren't. And it's in Columbus, and they play well at home. But you're right. Marchenko's hurt. Fabro, who is their top pair defenseman, Werenski's hurt. So I think you got to win that game, maybe quick, even a little bit. Easy breath doesn't have to go for 400 anymore. Maybe he wins that too. But you're right. It's hard to pick them to lose that. And I got to go 3-0. Who am I to pick them to lose? I think it's now or never. Let's ride with this Four Nations break on a good run.
Yeah. And, curious your thoughts. You go quick against Pittsburgh or quick against Columbus?
I was thinking about that. That's a great question. I think I'd go quick Pittsburgh. He's historically played them well. And then you have Igor with 2 weeks off going against Columbus in Columbus, because that technically is the bigger game, because that's who you're chasing.
Agree. I don't think he'll do that, though. I think he'll go Igor Pittsburgh and quick Columbus.
I agree, but I do wonder, because they never go Igor back-to-back, if he does get hot and play well against Pittsburgh and Boston, with the 2 weeks off, do you give him Columbus too?
Maybe. Yeah. They got full confidence.
Never a time.
They got full confidence in Quick, and you can't just play your backup against a team you think you're going to beat, because that's playing with fire, right? I mean, what if they play Quick and he bombs against Pittsburgh? You lose that game, and now you need Igor to win against Columbus. There's no guarantee that even with Igor, they'll beat Columbus, right? So I think Laviolette's going to go Igor against Pittsburgh and then Quick against Columbus. But maybe you see Igor in all three. We'll see. He's done it. He's done it in the past. He's played back-to-backs in the past, so we'll see if they do it. But all right, I think that wraps everything up. I think we covered everything. It's been a long episode. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us. Enjoy Rangers hockey this week before the Four Nations break. We get a couple of weeks off. I think we all need it. It'll be fun to just watch some best-on-best hockey and not really feel stressed. If USA doesn't win, I'll be fine, right? So it'd be nice to just kind of chill out, and we'll see what the teams do. Trade-wise, they've been kind of acting like this Four Nations is a trade deadline, like Mike said. See if any more moves happen. We'll see what the Rangers do, if they're going to move Lindgren or move Smith or acquire anybody else. We'll see, and we'll talk about it next week. We'll be back to cover these three games and preview a little bit of the Four Nations if anyone's interested in that. And then we'll be back, Rangers, I think, at the end of the month, right? The 22nd against Buffalo. The first game back after the Four Nations, so a 2-week break. So, looking forward to that. All right. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our listeners and the loyal ones, particularly, for sticking with us. And Little Ed signed off with his internet connections and Coach had to dip, but they thank everybody as well. And we'll be back next week, boys. This was Ranger Zed. Oh, there he is. Signing off, little Ed. Good timing. See you, bud.
See you guys.
Love you guys.
Go Rangers.
Yes, go Rangers.